have Keen here. Keen, we as a community, we always try to support your organization. And first of all, I really would like to thank you for everything that you do and for the work that you guys do there. And even before we start, that you can always count with us in trying to, keep supporting, because it's the work that you do is really important. So I really want to thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and today we have Kim talking, and she's going to talk about the Bali Street Moms project and her journey. And welcome.
Thank you. Hi. I always love coming back to Green School because that is where the Bali Street Mums project was actually born. And it was created in 2015. And that logo is actually made by Eddie Rashid and his mother Jan Marere, who were a very famous family at Green School. So I hold a lot of love in my heart for Green School. And how it was born was my son was attending Green School. He is now 23 years of age. We're from New Zealand. And him and I arrived in Bali in 2014. And we always noticed, I think I'm offline now, but that's okay. Oh, you hear me? Cool. We always noticed, we were always totally destroyed, actually, by seeing, the dogs on the streets in such bad condition. But we really noticed, the kids begging at the traffic lights, and the children and mums begging. And we were quite shocked by that. And then my son and some of his friends were in a volunteer program at the Green School, and they went down to Denpasar and they volunteered in a street kid centre. And I was so excited about this because I was like so hopeful that these children had somewhere to go, the children that I saw on the streets day after day, especially in the Sunset Road area. And this was a while ago, okay? So we're talking 2014, 2015. And so he came back from volunteering at this centre, and I said, how did it go? Like, are these kids having fun? And he was like, Mum, you got to get there. It was bad. They don't get breakfast. They come in very early in the morning, and they come because their mothers want them to learn. They want them to have lessons, and they want them to, have something to eat, but they don't get given breakfast. So by about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, the kids are playing up in the one classroom they have, and then the teachers are actually disciplining them and telling them off. So he said, Mum, you need to teach them how to make breakfast and things like that. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And so I started to volunteer, and I would drive to Denpasar. I was very new in Bali at the time, and driving to Denpasar is not easy. I got lost hundreds of times. And I would take big bags of fruit and eggs and rice and all the things that, those children would want to eat for breakfast. We made smoothies, we made everything. And so I started off being the breakfast mum. Okay, these kids need to eat. I was really shocked by the kids coming in. Basically, they would come in every day absolutely exhausted, having, begged on the streets until around about 2 or 3 a.m. Okay, and we're talking 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, babies with mothers, and, young girls, young boys. And they were tired, and they were dirty, and their feet looked like old ladies' feet. They were exhausted. And what would happen is they'd come in for the day, and then at 3 o'clock, the mums would take them back to the streets to beg, because there was no financial aid, no food aid, no supplies, anything from the Street Kids Centre in Denpasar. So I then realised that the mothers were in need of, earning a salary or earning a living, and this they could not do. Because they'd never been educated, because they could barely speak Indonesian, they mainly speak Balinese. They come from very impoverished villages up in the mountains where there is no water, no agriculture, really no hope. The ground it's like rock. So I started up a mother's group, and myself and the lady from Green School Shop at the time, Kerry Barry, sat down and began projects with the mothers, like making these glasses from bottles, dolls, hand-sewn dolls and jewelry. And pretty soon we had the mums earning money. What I did was I paid the mums to come in every day and learn. I took it out of my credit card. I just paid them day after day. You come in, I pay you. And it worked. They stopped taking their children to the street. So unfortunately, down the line, that centre shut down, and due to quite a bit of corruption. And so I was left with these mums and kids with nowhere to go. I continued to work with them in the slums, and then gradually we were able to find, myself and an Indonesian social worker, a safe house, which is what I always wanted. Because as we began to work in the slums, we found children locked in shacks that were being rented out. We found children that were being abused and assaulted by their stepfathers, by their fathers, and we realized the need for a safe house. So, and that safe house opened just pre-corona. I'm just going to go through some photos. I think I go that way, don't I? This way. At the computer. Oh, okay. So we'll just slowly, I just want to show you what it looks like in Denpasar, okay? What a child's home looks like in Denpasar, okay? And why today we have literally an explosion, literally what I call the pandemic of children on the streets, more children than ever before on the streets. Okay, so if we go through, just maybe, oh, I pointed at the computer. Oh, okay. So, yeah, hopefully that's clear enough. That's, just next door to our safe house, there's a slum area. This is next to the river. It's kind of hard to see with the lights, but you can see it? Great. Okay. So, yeah. So this, this woman's a cleaner in a hotel. She lost her job, this mum, and yeah, that's better. I can see now. So, so basically, does anyone know what a cost is? Has anyone heard of the word cost? A cost, K-O-S-T. What's a cost? Shared accommodation, yeah. So basically a cost is one room, okay, and a family of 6 can live in that room. I don't know how many square meters, probably about 8 square meters. And they're pretty grotty. And this family here pays 500,000 rupiah a month for theirs. And some of them are really bad, like literally open air, and that's a bed there in a cost. And, that's a bed, and someone's erected a tent around their cost because it was leaking. This is actually the costs at the rubbish dump village. So people actually pay. I was always really excited and thought they were squatters, but no. And I thought how clever they built these things, but no, some landlord built it and charges a price for it. That's the kind of kitchen area of the cost, and the bucket to wash in. So we're talking about people that live in costs in Denpasar. They come from all over Bali. They come from the other islands as well in search of work. And the people that live in those costs are usually the hotel workers, the parking guys, the mechanics, shop workers, all sorts. And when COVID struck, they lost their jobs. or some of them had their salaries cut in half, or, you know, the wife lost the job and the husband still had a job, or generally the husband lost his job and then the wife had her salary cut in half. So when you're paying 500,000 rupiah a month for your little home, and then you're paying, you know, for your food and your family, there's not enough. So what happened pre-pandemic, we literally opened 5 months or 6 months before the shutdown of Bali. And we were housing at that time 25 children who had been, we'd rescued from trafficking and sexual abuse and exploitation, basically. Then COVID struck and we were faced with just hundreds and hundreds of children coming to our gate from the nearby slums, desperate for food, desperate to be fed. They were on, you know, like a mouthful of rice a day, because that's what happens. You lose your job, you have no savings because you haven't been paid well in the first place, and there's nothing left. So what happened is, you know, you had kids as young as Missy here, who now lives with us, by the way. She's about 4 years of age there on the Sunset Road. And these kids, the parents sent their children out, parents that had jobs, and now there was more beggars than ever, or begging children, because there was just no food, nothing, no help from the government, nothing. So we were like faced with over 100 children a day coming to us for food, for the meals. And we cooked from 6 a.m. breakfast and lunch and dinner for those kids. So Missy was very, very abused. She actually had been picked up by a motorist who had assaulted her. And so she lives with us now with her 5 brothers and sisters. So I'm just trying to remember. Oh, I'm going back the wrong way. I go that way. That way? Yeah. Okay. Just some of the, just some of the sites. This is the rubbish dump one. So this is Dewi. She lives with us also. This is where she originally came from, down in the costs, just behind our Safehouse. Dewi lives with us, and she was abused by her stepfather. This is her mum, and she lives with us with 4 other children. So we actually have a cottage. We have like a compound and like a cottage at the Safehouse, and we take care of quite a few people there. So we now have 30 people living there, and then we have around 50 to 60 children coming each day now, or more. It just depends on, the day. Some parents have got their jobs back, but probably about 1/10 of them. Yeah. This is Nadia, and this is the rubbish dump village. So there's a rubbish dump in Denpasar, and the village is built like literally next to the rubbish dump. And the people there, they trash pick. So no, it's actually a smaller one. It's like almost like a rubbish depot at Moning Maning. Suwangan, they actually earn more there than this one for some reason, because the people here have to pay rent for their shacks. And so we also go to the rubbish dump and help these children because there really is nothing there. And they now come to the Safehouse as well. So what we started to do is work with this community who were earning around about $1 or $2 a day trash picking on the rubbish dump and not being able to feed their children. They now make those glasses with some of the street mums. And we've managed to move 6 families out of the rubbish dump, 6 mothers and their children, and they now live in decent accommodation. That's the toilet situation in the slum. This is like a shared toilet for 30 people, so in the slum area. Now, I took a photo of this when we were rescuing 2 little girls from a very, very bad situation where they'd been left locked in a shack, and I'm really sorry to tell you, but abused. And then And then they continued to live in that shack, and this is where they got to wash. So for me, it was just so important for them to come and have like a bathroom, which they didn't even know how to use at first, clean clothes and a clean bed, and just some love. Because this, honestly, there is none there. So when the COVID crisis hit, this young mother who was working in a beauty spa in Seminyak, quite a famous one, I think it was called Manari or something, she lost her job. And she didn't even receive her last wages, her last salary, okay? And so these are her two little girls. So she had like nothing. So, and this is her cost. And so, we would drop off supplies every couple of days. And she comes each day now to the Safehouse, and she makes the beads that we're going to put in the shop soon. But we make sure she leaves every week with an envelope of money to pay her rent and to help her and her daughters have a life. So, and this is a very common sight now. I don't know where you all live. I don't know if you see this in Ubud, but in Kerabokan, on the Sunset Road, Seminyak, Kuta, and now in Canggu, which is never used to be, children selling tissues, okay? And we have tried desperately to get child protection and to get the police on side with us, because this child here, she's 2 years of age, and she's exhausted. Okay, she's been 10 hours on the street selling those tissues. Her name is Yanti, but this is the situation, people aren't going to give money really to the adults. They're going to give it to the children, and of course the adults know that. So, so they're working really, really hard. So when I talk about the front line of poverty, it's the children. It's the children on the front line here in Bali. So we need to be really aware of this. And this was Erica, who you just saw with her two little girls. So when she first came in, when Erica's daughter first came in, she had large patches of hair missing. Does anyone know why you lose your hair? One of the reasons, especially a child? Stress. One of the really simple reasons for this one was dehydration. So they can't afford water. So, they can't even afford a gallon of water. Okay, so she wasn't drinking enough water. She was on the streets begging, and she lost her hair. It took us a long time to get her hair to come back. It was a lot of medicine, a lot of trips to the doctor. So here is Erica, and she's joined our little play school. So at the Safehouse, every morning, like I said, we have, between 50 to 100 children turn up. They need breakfast, a really nutritious breakfast. And then the smaller children have play school. And then during the lockdown, where schools were locked down for 2 years, government schools in Bali, we created a temporary school, and we paid teachers to come in and teach the older kids. And we had teenagers lined up outside our gate. We just want to learn. And we were continually being told off by the Petulang, who said we had too many people there, and this was against the rules. So we paid off the Petulang, just to keep it running, because this was a lifesaver. This is Yanti, the little girl that was selling tissues on the street. And our little playground. And another couple of kids. This is Missy, who you saw at the beginning on the Sunset Road. So, it's a little dreamy place for them in the middle of the slums. We've got like big trees. We were so lucky to find the property. It's like a big old compound, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 bedrooms, and then it's got a big cottage for the mother with the 6 children. And our rent is 25 million a year. So we had to spend a lot fixing it, but it is sustainable in that way. This is Katut, and she is really new to us. She's had a very, very hard life. We had to rescue her and her 2 sisters from a stepfather that just totally abused them. And she's new. You can still see she's still got the little dark shadows under the eyes, but she's doing well. I'm going to tell you the story about Wayan now, and this is where it's going and how hard it's getting out there on the streets. I was messaged through Instagram by a man who'd seen a little girl begging in Kirabokan at the traffic lights, and he said, look, I think she's got an eye infection. You need to get there and get her some medicine. And we got there within half an hour, my social worker and I, and the little girl, her eye was literally falling out of its socket. And so we sat her down and we got her some food and some drink. And she told us that she'd been attacked with a knife 6 months ago. She can't tell us who did it. And she was constantly passing out. She was disorientated. So we managed to get the phone number of her father up in the mountain villages, and he's paralyzed. And we said, look, can we take her back to the Safehouse, wash her up? She had bare feet and infections, and then take her to the hospital. And he agreed. So we did take her to the hospital, and they said, you have to get that eye out immediately. There's a tumor growing behind it. And this little girl has constant red flashing. So her whole vision is flashing red the whole time. And she's in an extreme discomfort. So we took her to the Safehouse and we booked her in for the operation. We tried to get an operation through the John Fawcett Foundation, but because of COVID, they couldn't do it. So we had to raise 12 million to get the eye removed. So she was doing well. She was trying to learn at the Safehouse. And finally, we got the operation. And you can see the relief in her eye, in her eyes, in her face. Okay? So just the most gorgeous child you've ever met in your life. It turns out that her older sister and her older sister's husband used to own a whole lot of beauty spas in Kuta, and they went bankrupt. And so their new business was going up to the mountains with their great big car and picking up all the children from the mountains and taking them down to the streets to earn money for them, to sell tissues for them, to beg. And they would take a percentage of that money, and then the rest would be taken back to the parents in the mountains. And these children were working, like I said, 10 to 12 hours a day in the heat with very little food. And then they'd go around and pick them all up and then check how much money they had. What was unbelievable about this situation was the sister was putting her little sister on the streets with that eye. Then they came to us at the Safehouse, the sister and the brother, and he was pretty menacing, and he bought a machete, and he said, if you don't pay us for Wayan to stay at the Safehouse, we're going to put her back on the streets. And the police weren't interested, and so we paid them 1 million a week for Wayan's safety. Since then, we've been able to negotiate with the parents and explain to them what was exactly happening, and now we pay the parents 500 tau a week, so it's a little bit better. They need that money, obviously, otherwise they are going to send their daughter back to the streets. So how do the police see it? The police see it as though they can't do anything. Child protection closed down for COVID. And the other issue is the police see it as the children helping their parents. Okay? So this is why really the police don't do much at all. There's Yanti again, and that's the little girl that was selling the tissues, and that's with her mother. So what we also do at the Safehouse is we're teaching the mothers, and we're teaching them to read and write, and we're teaching them about child exploitation. We're teaching them about family planning. We're teaching them about, illnesses, everything. And so that's Yanti's mum. And actually that's one of our older girls, Kadek, Inda, teaching her. So it's kind of really cool. It kind of goes around. This is one of the hungry children new off the streets. She is about 3 years of age, and she was begging on the bypass to Jimbaran Bay at night at about 11 p.m. And these two little sweethearts are Komang and Dewi. Kuturasi, who you saw before. So Komang and her little sister, and these are the girls that we rescued from their stepfather, and that's their bedroom. And here is Wayan with her new eye. So what happened is we had the eye removed, and then the John Fawcett Foundation said we can make her a lovely artificial eye. And what happens is she wears that for two months, and then we take her back there. She gets the socket cleaned, the eye put back in. And there she is with Komang, the girl that we rescued from the stepfather, and some of the other children. She is absolutely a changed girl. She asks me all the time for photos of her before, and then she likes to paste it all together. Like, this is me before, this is me now. So it's amazing to see the difference and how resilient these kids are and how they can recover, especially at this sort of age group. Komang, as I say, she was sexually abused by her stepfather, and she's 12 now, and she's been with us for 3 years. She's doing really well. And this is just a little bit of a story about this family, just to give you an idea of what happens. This is Ibu Payu and her two daughters, and I was actually visiting a shop in Umalas, and they were standing outside, and this is during COVID time, okay, and which is kind of still now, but they were standing outside. The little girl was covered in feces. They were hot and tired, and they were very dirty and hungry. And they had walked for hours and hours every day from, does anyone know Batu Bulan, where the bus station is from the villages in Karangasem? They'd walked from there for days and days and days, and they had slept. They slept on the concrete. They slept outside shops out the front because they were scared. And these three that's for 10 days they'd been going like that, and barely eaten, didn't really have that much money. And Ibu was pregnant. So, yeah. So we took them back to the Safehouse, and we got them cleaned up and got them new clothes, took Ibu to the hospital for a scan to make sure her pregnancy was doing okay. And here they are here. That's the difference. And so they've got a little room at the back of the Safehouse, and she's just had her baby. Little baby girl, another baby girl. So, and Ibu Payu has learnt to sew, and she makes some of the dolls that we sell at the green school markets. Yeah. I absolutely love Jenny, the older child. She reminds me of me. She's very anxious, and she worries about her younger sister and her mother constantly. We're trying to change that, to turn it around. And when I was young, I had an alcoholic mother. There was a stage that we lived in a car, and I had a younger sister, and I would stay awake every night watching the door because I was afraid I was going to be left with my younger sister and we would have nothing. So I see it a lot in Sarah, and I know it. I know that anxiety, and so we're trying to turn that around because she feels so responsible for her mum and her sister's welfare. And she's a gorgeous girl. And there's Komang doing some art at the Safehouse. So, and these are some of the dolls that Ibu Payu is making and some of the mums. So they can choose what they want to do, and if they don't want to make anything, that's fine also. We understand some mothers don't feel capable of it at the moment. We've also trained and taught the mums how to cook nutritious meals, and we have a total of 7-8 mothers cooking the breakfasts, lunches and dinners, and they get paid a salary to cook and to clean. So that's Komang. And that's making some of the Frida Kahlo dolls and the monster dolls. And 2 of our little children at the Safehouse. It's hard to believe this baby was on the streets, but she was. And there's Missy again. Here's one of the girls at the rubbish dump, and so she's saying hi, and we drop off, like I said, supplies every week, and we do a medical check also. We pick up all the kids from the rubbish dump, and they come for schooling or play school each day as well, and then we drop them home. Missy again. I think I've repeated that photo. These 2 girls, Alia and Anissa, have had a very, very hard time as well. They're living with us now. And there's some of the kids having their little lunch. We make lots of little areas around the compound so that they can visit those areas during the day. And one area will be the cuddle area with the teddy bears. One area will be the eat area, which is always available for them to eat some food and have something to drink. And then there's the high school area, middle school, and play school. So, like I said, this is a common theme right now. And so what do? How do we deal with this? And maybe we can talk about this in question time. Unfortunately, we did try to help this little girl, but the mother wants 1.5 million a week in return for her freedom, in return for us helping them. Generally, we will give a mother around 500 thou a week if we can from them, like donations or support we have. If we really have to, because they won't accept, any other sort of help, like maybe working or finding them a job or anything like that. This mum won't let this girl go free. She is in Canggu day after day selling, and she can earn her parents around 400,000 rupiah a day. So what is happening is, it is being perpetuated, her, in this life, by people giving money and buying things from her. What we try to say to the mothers is, you go to the street, you go and sell tissues or beg, but the children do not, because it's too hard on them and it's not fair, and they get abused, and they don't get to go to school, and they have a very, very hard life. There's Missy and Missy now. That's it. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it's so hard, yes, because I've actually seen this girl many times in Canggu, and my daughter, every time she's like, Mama, we need to do something, we need to give something.
Yeah.
And I came from Brazil, and this was a reality in my country.
Yeah.
I was born and raised with this reality.
Yeah.
And I seen so much these parents abusing kids and all of that there is a little bit of more conscious that if we give money, we are supporting.
We're perpetuating it, and then they go tell their friends, oh, my child got 400,000 or 200,000 or 100,000 on the street yesterday, and then their friends take their kids to the streets. And a lot of it too, the mothers want change quite often. The mothers do often care about their kids, but it can be the drunk husband at home who doesn't want to work, who's fighting with his roosters or whatever, that then will force them to go back to the street. And once that good money starts coming in, those kids are stuck. They're just stuck in that life. You know, there's just no way of offering any change. So hard. King, do you have questions? I actually do have two questions. How many kids and how many people you have in the center now? So what we've done is, like I said, during Corona, we had like up to 100 children a day knocking at our gate, coming in, getting fed, us putting them through schooling. So we have the play school and the classroom. Then our children. We are sponsoring a lot of children through school now once we get sponsors, so especially the older children. What happens with I need to say, and what I didn't say is what happens with the older children that we pick up off the streets that, for example, Wayan's never been to school before and she's 11 years of age. She needs to go to like a bridging school that we fund, so that she has enough schooling and her school certificate then to go into a proper government school, because the government school will not let them in at that age without having learned how to read and write before. So we originally have 100 children. A lot of those children and mothers that were coming to us, what we did was we offered them a chance to go back and live in the village, okay, where they have their village homes or they live with their parents, okay, they're in shacks, but, and it's tough up there, but it meant that we could send them food supplies and keep them going up in the village, because when they have the rent of the cost as well, which is, say, 500 thou a month, or they haven't been able to pay the cost for 4 or 5 months and they're going to be evicted, it's an impossibility just to keep paying off all these rents. So we have moved around 20 families back up to the villages, and then we make sure our social worker goes every 2 weeks, checks on the children, gets the children into the local school there and brings food supplies. So now we have around about 60 kids in the Safehouse each day. Yeah, 60 to 70, yeah.
And what is your main way of finding this money? Like who are the people supporting you?
Yeah.
That would be the first question. And like just taking these questions is like, how can our community also support?
So I'd never done Instagram before. We didn't have a website. When we were obviously a lot smaller and we had 25 children, we had donations. I did a GoFundMe. And we had some donations to fix up the Safehouse, and then we sort of were a little bit self-sufficient with the items the mums were making, and we could all sort of pool it in together and pay the mums and then pay for some of the expenses at the Safehouse. Of course, now it's 20 times that. And luckily, I had a charity group approach me, and they made an amazing website with a donate button. And then I had to overcome my fear of Instagram, and I started posting the stories and the donate button, and we had the most incredible and still have a pretty good response. I'm getting a bit worried because the last couple of months donations have been a lot less. So that does worry me. But yes, we rely on donations, and we also have a lot of people that sponsor children. Some of the parents from the Green School, they sponsor a child, and that's $50 American a month. So, and that means that child gets to go to school or have new clothes or have medical care and food, and it helps us support that child at the Safehouse. And all of that is on our website. So, yeah.
Good to know. We're going to promote that in the community.
I am a little bit losing sleep at the moment because obviously everyone thinks that Bali is open now and everything's fine, but
no, it's not.
It's not. It's not. It's just,
Thank you, Kim. Yeah. And I'm glad that you still keep doing this. And it's so what I know they just passed this law in Jakarta, which was, at least moving the needle a bit for women's rights and abuse and various things. I know there's some major gaps in that. Like, there's no, husbands cannot be charged with rape of their wife. And I mean, but it was at least something to be seen. What happens when the police are, we all know that.
Yeah.
But there are government officials that kind of sit in a little bit of a different area. Are there some government officials who are helping you? Are you ever able to speak like with the governor and just, they have, for example, the G20 is coming here in November.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine that is going to be, something that they won't want to be sharing. And, they don't want your story to be shared with anybody as well too. But hopefully we can do more to support you with that and support you with some fundraising and things. So, we can talk after, but we will definitely do some more, but just about government officials, I'm interested.
So we have had a number of meetings with government officials. I try not to go and be, the blonde in the room. Our social workers go, and we've had a number of meetings, and they're like, what to do? We've got the G20 coming, and we don't want these kids on the streets. And we're like, lock up the parents. Like, really? Don't take, because what happens is when they do round up the kids, which they did 2 nights or 3 nights ago, I don't know if you saw it in the Bali news or whatever, all the kids sitting in the back of a police van. They take the kids to the police station, they shave their heads, they make them sleep one night there, and then they send them back on the streets. I don't know, that's some sort of punishment thing, or they think they've got lice or something like that, which they probably have. But so the social workers were like, look, it's the problem with the parents, and generally it does stem from the father, unfortunately. Because as we know, in Balinese society, it's generally the woman that works, right? I remember coming here 20 years ago and being utterly shocked by those women carrying big buckets of stones on their heads and working on the building sites while the men sat around and marokok, yeah? So, this has been a thing where it's the woman's job to find the money, and it is a bit of a cultural thing as well. So we're like, listen, the ones that we've managed to like really free from the streets, it's got to be an agreement with the parents, but we're having to like pay, as I've told you, for quite a number of these kids, especially the ones that are in really bad situations. So lock up the father, lock it up, and then they will stop sending their children to the street. So they sort of looked a bit worried about doing that, but yeah. Child Protection Agency, we've knocked on their doors a number of times, and I don't know if I should say this on camera, but their budget is very, very low for Bali. We're talking around about 100 million rupiah a year. So that's not going to do anything, Yeah.
Just one more.
Yeah.
What is the total to fund your project for the entire year? What is it?
Yeah, so
I'm trying to do the math in my head. It sounds like it's about 200 million, 250 million.
No, we've probably got it at about 140 million.
140 million.
140 million right now.
Roughly 30 support of 30 people at your center. That's to support 30 at the center plus another 70. 150 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So yeah. So like I say, we're supporting 70 families. They each have 3 to 6 children, say, and then so that those children can go to school or they don't get put on the street. We've sent them back up the mountains, and then we've got another 30 kids that are in dire straits at the Safehouse that need guarding and care. We have a security guard. We have Angel, who is one of our social workers. She's extremely amazing. She's also a counsellor, and she sleeps in the same room with the new girls quite often for months on end in the same bed as them, because of course they wake up in the middle of the night, and yeah. So yes, that's what it funds, and it funds a great staff. Yeah, it funds a great staff. We've got about 6 team members, and up to 100 children. Yeah.
Thank you. Amazing work.
Thank you.
I've been in Africa quite a lot, in Rio and stuff. I haven't seen the slums here yet, but yeah, condition is appalling.
Yeah.
But you're talking about 100 kids, and so very good that you're doing that. How many in total in Denpasar in Bali? Any idea?
Thousands, probably. I mean, on the streets right now, I'm counting in hundreds. And there's more, as I say, more and more new ones, new kids each day, because basically the fallout from this pandemic has not gone away, and everyone thinks it has, but it hasn't. But we're a tip in the bucket. Yeah.
Yeah, because those costs, nobody is doing anything to improve the living conditions of that.
Yeah, no.
With the G22 coming up, I mean, and if you would do a cost levy or something at the airport for tourists to come in.
That's what I feel. Yeah, I agree with that, like Bhutan, yeah?
I don't know, but this somehow has to stop, I guess.
It has to stop, because I will honestly tell you right now, since 2015, it has got worse. And the level of abuse that, the level of, we have another problem, which I haven't spoken about today. I wasn't sure if I had time, but the new thing that's happened and that we've discovered in the last couple of weeks is there are spas beginning to open up in the Seminyak, mainly because Kuta's just not opening, but in Seminyak area. And there are these little spas run locally, and there are young girls sitting in front of those spas, and they're 13 or 14 years of age, and they start work at 9 o'clock at night and finish at 4 or 5 in the morning. So I think you can... Yeah. So we're actually working on that right now, that situation, and we do have a human rights Indonesian lawyer working with us. But again, the department, we were hoping to close those spas down through I can't remember the name, the Department of Work, like workers or whatever, because these kids are below the age of 17, so we could get them on the law that they're not supposed to be working under 17. But again, they want videos, they want the children to be caught in the act, and they'll probably end up, locking up the children rather than the perpetrators or the people that go there, So it is actually getting worse. I never saw that before, because we've always patrolled the streets. We have a patrol that goes out every second night, and I've never seen such young girls.
I mean, if you reported the spa, they wouldn't shut it down, because I read.
No, they wouldn't shut it down. No, they'd fine them. Yeah. Which would shut it down right now, because obviously the spas aren't getting that many clients. So we've just been working on this for a couple of weeks, so we should be able to update soon. We're just having to be a bit careful driving around there at night and filming, and the reason I found out about this is we had 2 of our girls that got caught up with other friends that weren't attending the Safehouse, and they were going there and doing it, and then came to us and said what was happening. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ibu Kim Farr.
Yes.
Amazing work that you're doing right now, like such dedication and compassion to these kids. So I have a question, like for us, what would be a better way, or what way are you suggesting right now if we happen to encounter these kids or maybe adults selling stuff like tissues and whatnot? Should we buy or should we ignore? Or
it's a terrible question, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
I know, I'm so compelled to, you know, I know when I first arrived in Bali, that's what I was doing. I was like, well, they're not doing drugs and they're not, you know, but actually there is a lot of alcohol going on maybe at home if they take that money home. It's, as I say, it's perpetuating. What I'm saying to people now is, hey, let's all write to the governor of Bali. Let's write to Child Protection and let's say, you know, this is just not okay. And as people working maybe, you know, like in industries which rely on people coming into the country, people, you know, the governor or whoever needs to know that this is not okay, you know, and we can work with, we are quite able to work with the Regency of Karangasam and help them. But if the government could, if the Balinese government or the governor could help the local government in Karangasam, which is where most of these kids come from, where it's extremely impoverished. And if they could realize that this is going to affect their tourism, it is going to affect their tourism industry because it's worse than ever now. And it's exhausting. And I'm getting phone calls from cafes in Ubud and messages from cafes in Ubud and cafes in Canggu and Preranan saying, you know, there's these children and they're begging and they're coming up knocking on the windows and the customers are really, you know, mingangu, upset, you know, like annoyed. I'm like, well, you know, we can't take on any more, you know. At the moment now, talking about funds, we're having to pick and choose. We're having to pick the worst cases because we don't have enough anymore. Yeah. So.
Thank you, Kim. It's really nice to finally see you and meet you. To that end, do you see a projection for Bali street mums and kids of growth? Is it like, no, we really kind of have to stop here and pick and choose, or because it seems like it's probably infinite. How do you manage what it looks like over the next few years?
So the last 2 years, we did receive great support, and every single penny that came in went out to support very hungry children, very hungry people, and to support these kids through this horrific time. Because I'm talking about kids that just never got to go to school for 2 years. You know, I was telling the story just before about how, you know, their parents don't earn much money. They might earn $5 or $6 a day, but they found the money to send their kids to school. These are the slum dwellers. And what happened was when the schools shut down, the kids were told to go online and study. And of course, they can't afford a smartphone. They can't afford internet. All right. And then the schools continued to send their monthly bills of $300,000 per child to the parents. The parents have lost their jobs. They can't pay the bill. And then after a few months, the schools start sending debt collectors saying, if you don't pay your arrears, we're going to cut the child off school and they're not going to be able to graduate. So, you know, this is the other situation. You've got all these children that haven't been schooled for 2 years. It's a crazy situation. We had a girl come to us, a teenage girl, and her grandmother, who, you know, works selling vegetables off the top of her head, had this, you know, thing sent to her, and this little girl shares a mattress with her grandparents, you know, in a one-room cost, and her grandfather's had a stroke. She cut her wrists because she was so frustrated and so, you know, depressed by the situation. We've helped every one of those children. Unfortunately, as I say now, the donations have started to dwindle. So we are going to have to like make some cuts, and we're going to have to pick and choose, which is, I can't even bring myself to do it at the moment. But yes, yeah.
And is there a dialogue with the Ministry of Education for situations like that?
The Indonesian schools. We deal with a lot of schools, and it's quite funny. We had Reuters come to us during the lockdown and do a little interview and do a little video about how we were breaking the law and running a little school in our Safehouse, which we were, because all the schools were shut down. So, and that how the World Bank is furious with the Indonesian government because they see these children have not gone into school for 2.5 years. Some will never go back to school, by the way. There will never be the money to go back to school. And they just can't see their loans ever being repaid, you know? The deal was, we lend you the money, you educate your children, and now, yeah. It's a very strange situation, yeah.
You want a question? Okay.
Yeah.
Who was funding the first center that you were involved in with your son that shut down? Who was funding
Safe
that?
Childhoods. Yeah. That was being funded by donations, and the woman that ran that her name was Natalia. I've forgotten her surname now. Yeah, she just shut down one day. I kind of was so angry with her for doing it, but now I can see like it becomes a situation where you're looking at the books going, oh my gosh. We're not in that situation. We hope to become a little bit more sustainable as sales are picking up for the mums' items that they make. And we're just hoping to reach perhaps another audience of people. We were getting most of our donations from Australians and Europeans and Americans who'd lived in Bali and maybe gone home and realized the shocking situation, where, people, have no food and nothing. Yeah. But now everyone's thinking, oh, you're all okay. The borders are open. Right. We're just on the tip of the iceberg right now. Yeah.
Thank you, King. I mean, I almost cried like a few times during your presentation. And I mean, so for every community member here, and for the ones online, we're going to be putting all the links and everything, I mean, in our website, in our newsletter, and hopefully create more people going to your website and pressing the donation button, like everyone that is here. Once you receive this information, please share in your network, share with your friends.
And our Instagram has all the stories as well. That's kind of really important to go back over the stories, and you'll hear these stories and be able to. Yeah. Exactly.
Don't we have in our network in the Green School? Because I know that there is a very famous lady in the Green Village, which is very well known in the United States.
Oh.
Can't you make somebody like that? Can't we find somebody that becomes an anchor?
Yes.
And
like a patron or an influencer
type of thing, and spreads that through his or her network.
That it would be really great. I don't have a great network. I'm really antisocial myself. I go to bed at 7:00 at night. People ask me to go out at night and meet them for a drink. I can't even walk because I wake up really early. I wake up about 4 or 5 a.m. to make sure that all the kids get in from the slums and everything is run correctly. And so I'm so antisocial. But, if you do have friends, if you can spread the word, and if someone, I would love some partners, quite frankly. I do this on my own. I'm the only blonde at the Denpasar. You know what I mean? I'm really finding it. Yeah. It'd be really great. Yeah. Any networking situations.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everybody here, I mean, I'll give it to you in a second. Like everybody here does have their own network, some more, some less, you know, and I think that everybody here in the position, I'm really asking for each of you to share that. We will ask more through our social media channels. I'm so touched by everything that you do, King. Like it's.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
And it makes me gain a lot of hope in humanity by what the acts that you do, but also lose a lot of hope in humanity by seeing what parents are able to do with their kids just to get money, you know. So it's like this contrast of people that you know are here to, you know, with a lot of integrity, empathy, compassion, and wow, like how. I don't want to judge, but it's really hard for me as a mom to see
it's
in a
hard
position.
to not judge, but I guess it does all stem from poverty in the first place. And like I said, those mountain villages, they have no water. The water's been drained down south.
Is that the area? Yeah.
Oh, we're talking about Batur, Muntigunung. We're talking about most of the mothers are further up the mountain. I mean, if you ever go up there, it's a nightmare because you literally have to trudge up the tracks to get to their villages, and there is no water. A long time ago, I won't say it, but a lot of the water was drained from the rivers there. And of course, you had the volcanoes and the earthquakes, which blocked up the rivers. So in fairness, I guess, they're stemming from a lot of poverty, and there has been a bit of a culture to come down to the streets. But as I say, we have got new kinds of beggars as well, the ones like, you know, the spa owners, you know, that have gone.
I mean, there is also, it's hard to say, it's a different situation, but there is also, I mean, a lot of people don't want to raise salaries from people in developing countries because it's very convenient for big companies to make more money by exploiting people.
I fear that it's going to get worse. I fear that it's going to get worse. And I have been asking people for a long time to ask your Pimbantu, ask your driver, ask your gardener, are you paying them enough? And they'll be really honest. And really, I was really depressed because a friend of mine and my sister came over from New Zealand, and we hired a little villa in Kirabokan, and the people, you know, they were earning good money through Airbnb, the owners, and then I saw the Pimbantu and she just looked so depressed and so sad, and I asked her what she was earning, and her salary had been cut in half. And her husband had lost his job, and and then the gardener was earning 50 thou each time he came to garden, and he was so desperate that he drove for 2 hours literally from Batu Bulan, you know, for his gardening job on his rickety motorbike, and he was so thin. And his kids don't get, you know, it's like, that is just not good enough, you know, and you need to call people out on that as well. I actually did call these people out, and apparently the owner cried for 2 days, and it's like, well, you try being those people. They probably cry every night. They look like they do, you know. So you really do need to like put that word out as well, because otherwise what happens is, when crises happen, there's no savings, they can't send their children to school. I mean, that's just not enough to live on.
Yeah, that's a really important part.
The cost of living has gone up dramatically because of us in Bali.
It's true. And that's a part that we can play a responsibility as well.
We need to be responsible people, and we need to, and I was just shocked at, like, you know, what we're paying this, and the Pimbantu and the gardener's getting this. Like, that's just wrong. That's not right, you know.
Yeah.
And give tips too. Give tips.
Okay, so I do have just 2 more comments because I'm aware a little bit of time.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you very much. That was really, really interesting, amazing talk, and amazing work that you do. You probably already more or less approaches, but I wondered, do you have any corporate sponsorship or anything from the bigger business? Have you tried that? You did.
We did pre-COVID. Okay. And then they all started cutting back.
And is there any now at the moment? Okay.
They've all cut back. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's a good thought. I need to do that again, like start canvassing for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So for people that might have the expertise, you know, it's also a way of helping, you know.
Yeah, that would be just wonderful if you do have any friends that run anything. Yeah.
So Belinda, last one.
Kim, I was just wondering, are there any sort of particular projects that you know, if a group of us here all found like 5 or 6 or 7 friends, I know that the rice thing already happens, but is there a particular wonderful. Kind of like the girls that need bridging education, or, you know, are there like these succinct projects that we could say
absolutely
we could come in and help with that one?
So I tell you one thing we really do need is people for the older children to practice English with, and even the younger children. None of them can speak English, even though we've tried and tried and tried. But we have had the odd person volunteer to be an English teacher, but they come once or twice and find it all a bit too hard. Also, during COVID, we couldn't have any more people in. But if there is a group that would like to do those sort of lessons and maybe some creative lessons with the children, that would be great. And then on the side, maybe a little bit of fundraising or something. That would be great, yeah. So we've got the teenagers that really need the English,
But our teenagers.
Oh, yes, it could. Absolutely.
Yes, that would be awesome, yeah.
Absolutely. I think that would be wonderful. Yeah.
That would be a great idea.
That would be...
So
why haven't I thought of that? No, yes, that would be great, yes. And so what we do is the children do school in the mornings, like most Balinese children, and then the afternoons are free, or from about 11 onwards. You know, they can have, or even a Saturday works, yeah.
King, thank you so much.
Let's
connect after here. So we're going to put all this information.
So much.
Thank everyone for coming here, for caring.
Thank you so much for caring.
Thank you.